Ben spends all this time trying to fit in. The bullies nickname him 'cause of his list, so he decides my time in water polo will end. The coach doesn't want to see him give up. Look at this now, these strange feeling smells. How will he know how to control these weird urges? There's some strange energy surges. And here we look at Eli, who's weird and dancing with a Betty Boop cutout for no reason. Adolescence feels like the plague. My, what is really going on? There's strange smells and some hair in places that you didn't even know that you had. And we'll see going on with the feeling of dancing too strong. Being weird is a part of growing up. Adolescence feels like the plague. My, how can we avoid it now? The Plague was written and directed by Charlie Polinger, who's done shorts as his first feature film. Check out his IMDb page for the full list of his work. And this is a film that features Joel Edgerton, recently of Train Dreams, a terrific movie on Netflix you need to check out. Joel was tremendous in that, a tremendous movie in general. He's having quite the interesting 2025 into 2026. This movie actually did get released in select theaters in late 2025, but it's getting a full release at the beginning of 2026. So I decided, you know what, this is going to be the first movie that I see released this year. My list, my rules, there we go. So, what is The Plague? I'll tell you in a moment, nameless person, in the scenario I just created in my head. Shut up. The Plague, basically, is a movie that puts a different spin on how boys go through puberty, essentially, is what it is. That's basically what it is. That's not even really a spoiler. You can probably glean that just from reading the description. That's basically what it is. But it's a different spin on it because you see how there are boys that have not gone through that. There are, boys that have gone through that and how people are treated. It's like a slightly more body horrific version of Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, just without the budget, or Rachel McAdams. More in the pity. We could always have Rachel McAdams in more projects, or on more projects, or on somebody's lap. Moving on from that, let's talk about the fact that Joel Edgerton is pretty much the biggest star of this film. I do want to shout out a young lead named Ben, a.k.a. Stoppy. That is a nickname that he receives later on. Played by Everett Blanc. He is magnificent. He is very, very good in this, and I really look forward to seeing what else he can do. We also have Kenny Rasmussen, not Rasputin, who plays Eli, who is kind of the odd kid out. There's a couple other kids in this. Jake, K.O. Martin, and we have Matt, who has very, very blonde hair. That I actually thought we were going to get an Outsiders type thing. And I'm not talking, hey, yo. I'm talking Outsiders, like, the book Outsiders in the 1983 movie. Anyway, he's played by Carden Burris. It is clear that this was not actually made in the U.S., just strictly based on a lot of accents slipping out. And it takes place in 2003 at a water polo camp where, treachery be afoot. Treachery basically as you are going through feelings of, changes and stuff like that, because we all eventually grow up, at least most of us do, unless we're Daniel Benoit or Jack Atkinson Jr. What is wrong with me? Genuinely, what is wrong with me? We basically see Joel Edgerton as the coach. We see Ben trying to fit in with the cool kids, and also trying to understand Eli's plight, because Eli is kind of he's the black sheep of the group because he's got the plague. I will say that I like the spins on this, and I did like the sound design and the music being intentionally unnerving. I believe that is the exact reason why, from the very beginning, the movie grabs you. I knew nothing about this movie before I decided to I went to go visit a friend, but I decided to go watch it at one of the few theaters that was playing it on this day before it opens more wide tomorrow, and I was glad I did. I was glad I went in completely blind, beyond seeing the poster, reading the description. I didn't even see a trailer for this, and that is fucking rare. And what a movie to start 2026 with, because this is fucking fabulous from beginning to end. There are familiar tropes, but it feels fresh. I thought we were going to get a Lord of the Flies situation. We didn't quite get that, but I really thought we were going to go with that. Thankfully, we didn't go full Lord of the Flies. We weren't going to go full Stand By Me, but this feels very much a product of its time, but also there's care put into it. The kid actors are very, very good. Even the ones that don't get a ton of screen time, they do pretty well. It's not a perfect movie. There are a few issues, like maybe the ending's a little bit rushed, but everything as far as a narrative wraps up beautifully. Leaving some open-ended stuff as far as how characters are going to deal with stuff. How these bullies are going to deal with particular things. It does leave a lot, but it really relies lies solely with the strengths of Everett as Ben and Kenny as Eli. And there's a lot of really good stuff here. So I encourage you guys to check this out as soon as you can. I'm going to get into spoilers because there's a few things I want to talk about. But really, that's the most spoiler-free thing I can say. It's in theaters right now, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So, Eli has the plague, a.k.a. he hit puberty. So, he's made fun of for being different and also being a little bit weird. And I've known kids like Eli. Like, there were kids like that in my high school. I mean, and I was plenty socially awkward. I mean, I still am now. It's difficult to fit in, as a tween, in the high school, that kind of stuff. Some people peak in high school. Some people peak in middle school. Some people, go on to do great things into their 70s. And unless you're the Von Erichs. What is wrong with me? Genuinely, again, what is wrong with me? The one thing I liked was the way that Ben just desperately tried to fit in, and Jake was realizing, Jake in particular being the main villain of this group, that he's like, oh, I could just, you could see it in his eyes. And great acting here by Mr. Martin, great acting, but he's like, oh, I can manipulate the fuck out of this guy, because every time Eli gets close, they're like, oh no, we can't get near him. It's like cooties, we gotta wash ourselves and everything and stuff like that. Thankfully, it didn't deal with adolescence like Clown House did, and if you know, thankfully we didn't get that. Victor Salva should have never seen the light of day. Somebody else could have directed Jeepers Creepers. But the water polo thing, that's almost a backdrop, but it does lead to some nice stuff, a little bit later. We do have Eli, who clearly has rashes, has stuff going on because the change and stuff like that, and that's the way it's manifesting. And I like that stuff because it would be confusing for boys not understanding what's going on. It's just like, are you there, God? It's me, Margaret. The way it dealt with it was a lot sweeter. This was a lot more body horrific, but there are a couple of similarities as far as dealing with that change, and some people handle it well, some people don't. But the thing is they're between 12 and 13, and you're thinking, okay, this kind of puberty, whatever, boost. If you're not hitting it by that point, and some don't hit puberty till fucking 15. Some people don't get experienced at all, in a lot of things until they're in their 20s. Everybody grows up differently. But we do see that Eli, he means well, but he's very weird. He likes to sit in the sauna room. He likes to sit away from everybody else and eat his food because he's always bullied and picked on. Nobody wants to sit with him. There are girls at this water polo camp thing as well. We see like a few scenes with these girls, including one needle drop of I swear by All for One. Yes, that was brilliant. Bravo, Charlie. Bravo. My God, that was a brilliant drop. I mean, my sister loved playing that album. I mean, still does, I assume. I don't know. She lives on the opposite side of the country now. But I just love that because, seeing that, it's like, oh my God, seeing, you get your first crush, whatever it is. I don't know what girl he was particularly staring at because none of the girls, I think, were ever given names. Strictly focused on the boys here. But even before that, we get a part where they sneak out and they're dancing around, and even Eli's with them. Like, they don't mind. Eli's kind of like, dance, boy, dance, dance, court jester, dance. But don't get near us. Don't do any of that. They're smoking or drinking. They're destroying stuff. And then a pipe gets busted. And suddenly, oh no, they get too close to Eli. And Ben's got to clean himself up as this pipe water keeps going. And then there's also this talk of, these bunk bed scenes where they're talking about girls and stuff like that. And as things are going on, like, that's just crazy stuff. That was like, so, the boy is like girls, but like still the change thing, it's really well done. And there's even another scene where he's talking about, this girl that he likes or whatever it is, just trying to fit in. Now, it's entirely possible, and I'm blue skying it here, that Ben could possibly be gay or possibly not be sure. Some know right away, some don't. And I'm just saying, the way he's describing about girls, he may be interested, he could be, whatever it is. The whole point is there's a few themes that are explored in this without getting gratuitous, except for the skin stuff. And there's a point where some skin's being peeled back from a nail. And then there's this earlier thing where Eli actually manages to win Ben over with a finger trick. He pretends to cut off his own finger, but then he explains how he did it and stuff like that. No, it's cool. And Eli seems kind of nice, but he's also very weird. And he does a weird dance in that alleyway party scene. And then we get the all for one I swear thing. And then we get a part where basically Ben is trying to, sees that Eli's going through something, has the skin stuff on his back. Ben's starting to go through his own thing. He's starting to get the pimples. He's starting to get the stuff. He's trying to hide it. It's not going that well. And he ends up rubbing some cream on Eli's back. Then rumors fly that, we gave him a back rubber. He did this or whatever. It's like, and there was even a point where Eli had talked to him, would you rather have fucked a dog and nobody knew about it, or you didn't fuck a dog but everybody thought you did? Oh, I'd rather have fucked a dog. Ew, what the hell? Like, what in the world? Like, but again, trying to fit in, the manipulation, the lying, that kind of stuff. Because Jake's the one that's doing the main, bullying and everything. I mean, others are going along with it, but it's like, a ragtag group of mean boys. And the alleyway dancing scene was very, very good. Really liked that. And then there was a point where I thought we were going to go Full Metal Jacket with the soap. We didn't go with that. But he's having his first nice dream, shall we say. Ben is. And then the boys are kind of making fun of him because he's doing that because he doesn't really know what's going on. But he's socially awkward. And all that. So he's not handling that very well. And then there's a scene where basically, and I'm kind of skipping over some of this stuff because, there's a few really good scenes, but it's like just a few things that I liked. We do see where, Eli's dancing with this cardboard cutout of a Betty Boop-like character that he calls Boopy, because Boopy doesn't judge him, because that's just how awkward the kid is. I mean, the kid may suck, but I don't think he deserves to be bullied like that. But after the cream thing, Ben starts to go through the change and stuff like that, and is being made fun of, has his first nice dream. They're making fun of him, flashing the flashlights in his eyes, making fun of him. He then ends up basically calling his mother, going to a diner, calling his mother, and he ends up basically talking to his coach. And then there's this stuff going on where, it's just not good. It's just not, it's just, the coach is trying his best to get through to him, but it's like, the change and stuff like that. He's like, my 20s weren't that great either, but, it's part of growing up. And it is part of growing up. And then it's insinuated basically that Jake had something to do with it. But then Ben denies it, even though Jake knows that he said, and Jake tries to apologize. Genuinely, I think, tried to apologize to him. But then Ben was kind of lying about it and said maybe Eli said something. Oh, really? And then that night, we get the full-on ridiculousness. We get the full-on, I say ridiculousness, but it's kind of harsh. They got cockroaches from somewhere. The alleyway, I don't know. Possibly behind some dumpster. And they poured him into his bed and basically forced the blanket down. A bunch of them held it down. And he was being, just tortured by it. Now, these cockroaches, or these bugs, were probably terrified, for God's sake. They were probably terrified as hell. And just saying, we want to get out of this thing too, kid. So then Eli's wondering what's going on. He's like, it's just, boys being boys, friends playing pranks on each other. because he's so desperate to fit in because he's been manipulated like that. And then, basically, because of that, Ben finally snaps. Just finally snaps. And during the water polo thing, he ends up scratching Jake. And Jake's all upset because the coach won't call it. They're fighting, trying to drown each other, this kind of stuff. And basically the coach gets Ben, because he gets Jake rather, and then Jake ends up going home. His dad's clearly not happy about this. His dad or his big brother, I'm not totally sure. But there's an implication that Jake might come from a broken home. Ben's mom is not really always, I mean, she seems to care, but she's not really there that much. We don't see much, we don't hear, we only hear her, we don't see her. And then, essentially, we end with a big old dance that the boys are putting on, boys and girls, all this stuff. But Eli is dancing with the boopy, and Ben is like wondering what the fuck is. I mean, again, he's going through all this chemical imbalance stuff and everything, and is like, you know, he breaks it apart, and then Eli runs off. I mean, weird, possibly off-putting, but not illegal. But he breaks it. And then he's trying to tape it back up and do all this stuff. And he just starts reading him the riot act. I mean, it goes, I don't want to say it goes from 0 to 60, but Ben just starts saying, nobody's going to want to talk to you and everything and this kind of stuff because you're just so weird and you just think you can act like this and everything without acting like an actual person. And all that. It's lines that I cannot quote. I'm going to have to rewatch this again at some point because it's fabulous, but it is heartbreaking. Because, goddamn, sometimes we need to hear stuff, but sometimes we maybe don't need to hear it like that. And then he yells at him to grow up. And then remember the finger trick right here? Who takes the scissors that he's using to cut the tape? Repair the boopy character. He cuts his own finger off. It's not like that girl movie on Netflix where they cut their own member off. Implication and ow. Ow, it still hurts. But that was still a bit rough. And now the coach is taking him there, or taking Eli to the hospital. Hopefully not going to lose his job. And then Ben goes back to the dance. He's still soaked from the rain and decides to dance just like Eli is. Because in trying to, you know, maybe be different, fit in, stuff like that, everybody goes through it. Everybody goes through their awkward phase. And that's how we end. And that is the end of The Plague. Which, really fabulous. I really enjoyed this quite a bit. A lot more than I expected. I saw that it was getting some high praise. And I was like, well, that seems like a lot. It was getting quite a bit of high praise on Letterboxd. I was like, okay. Charlie XCX apparently really liked it. Can't wait for her movie, The Moment. I think it's called The Moment. Nevertheless, A+ for The Plague. So starting off a really, a strong way in 2026. I do want to say once again, I'll probably say this. I mean, not at the end of every review, but if you don't see me review every single movie in video form, I'll still have stuff on Letterboxd. So that's your warning right there. Nevertheless, A+, agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin. Until we go through the change of life once again, God, I'm glad I'm grown up. Sometimes, mostly, happy trails to you.